It was the 100-day mark. He's already faced a string of defeats. He's only 100 days into his second term, already faced a string of defeats.
The GOP ad uses an image of President Obama comforting a Newtown mother who lost her little boy in the shootings to try and score cheap political points.
They are worried that they're going to have to use these guns because of our own government. Now, is there anything in Washington that says any telltale signs that maybe we might be headed for an internal revolution, given the fact that these kind of things are going on?
The loss that we'll see for children through Head Start, for senior citizens through Meals on Wheels, for children who will be dealing with various other food nutrition programs. That breaks everyone's hearts. We knew all of these calamities were in the future. And so it reminds me of the Shakespeare line, "Thou protestest too much."
I mean, am I missing something? Michelle Bachmann voted against the president on this, saying the cuts didn't go deep enough. Now she's the champion for the poor, Dana?
That is truly extraordinary, but you see that they're starting to feel the heat, that they are going to be blamed for what's going on here. What has to happen is President Obama needs to step up and be making the sort of argument that you're making right here tonight. The problem is there's this sort of appearance now that, well, they took care of the wealthy business people who are traveling with by making sure the air traffic controllers can be in there, and they're kicking the kids out of Head Start. They're kicking the cancer patients out. The president should be in their face on this, campaigning in districts of vulnerable Republicans, and really making an issue on this, because the Democrats really should be in a very strong position here.
My first gut reaction seeing the horror of that person that had their legs blown off, you know, with the bones sticking out.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was not in shock. And I looked and I thought, there's something, I don't know what's wrong, but it seems surreal to me. He was not in shock. He was not in pain.
The American people are for background checks.
We know that America is divided.
Divided government is a recipe for gridlock.
But nowhere are we as fractious as we are on guns.
There are people on my side.
Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey,
who didn't want to be perceived.
Who didn't want to be perceived as helping
something that the president wants to accomplish.
Because the president wants to accomplish it.
Many of his Republican colleagues voted no because they didn't want to give the president a political victory.
Picking politics over policy.
Background checks is the appropriate public policy.
The American people are for background checks.
That's why Senator Joe Manchin, who co-sponsored the original background check bill,
the Manchin-Toomey rewrite,
has vowed to reintroduce it.
I'm willing to go anywhere in this country. I'm willing to debate anybody on this issue.
What is wrong with universal background checks?
New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte,
one of the heroes who voted to block the gun bill,
her vote against expanded background checks. She's having to answer for her vote.
Look at this evidence.
Kelly Ayotte experienced a 15-point slide.
Senator Toomey has seen a significant bump.
This expanded background check was supported.
The American people are for background checks.
What happened here was not a policy position.
We know that America is divided.
Divided government is a recipe for gridlock.
You're there for certain reasons. If you cannot come to terms, I'm not sure why you're in office.
I mean, come on.
You don't miss it at all, do you?
I don't.
Yeah.
Not 1 minute.
I received your 4-page letter regarding guns and background checks. I really don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. What is wrong with universal background checks?
On this issue, I've described it for you, but I will tell you in terms of a universal background check, as it's been framed, I have a lot of concerns about that leading to a registry that will create a privacy situation for lawful firearms owners.
You say, I want to buy that shotgun, or I want to buy that AR-15, or I want to buy whatever it is, that Glock 9. What happens is the clerk picks up a phone, there's an automatic dial number, he gets either the FBI, and so they say, I got Joe Biden here, he lives at such and such, gives my address, it says I'm a U.S. citizen, and I assert he asserts he's not disqualified from owning a gun. It doesn't say what kind of gun I want to buy, it doesn't give the registration number, a serial number of the gun, it doesn't do anything. And within 3 minutes, 93% of the time, it comes back and says, accept or reject. It doesn't say don't sell him the gun because he's been adjudicated mentally incompetent. Don't sell him the gun because he's a convicted felon. It just says that's it. And that outfit in West Virginia has to tear up the request. They can't even keep for 24 hours the fact that somebody called and asked about a guy, Biden, can he buy a gun?
I thought that we had settled on a really common sense approach that ought to be able to achieve a consensus. I think in the end we didn't, because our politics have become so polarized. And there are people on my side who didn't want to be perceived to be helping something that the president wants to accomplish, simply because it's the president who wants to accomplish it.
Joy, it's one of those things that was obvious. We got it. But there's something about a Republican senator involved in the effort actually saying it on the record, and in this case, on video.
Yeah, that it's obstruction for obstruction's sake just because it's Obama. And that's important that Toomey's the one saying that. You know, he's part of that class of 2010. These guys that were elected in 2010, Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, you know, people who were elected in basically blue or purple states, like he was in Pennsylvania, that they have to be up in 2016, which is a presidential year.
I think it's very hard to overstate the significance of the Pat Toomey quote. Obviously, as you said, it was everyone knew about it. Everyone knew that was the reason why. But to have it said like that in so sincere and somber way really struck me as an amazing omission.
Let me say, Pat Toomey, the senator from Pennsylvania, did a yeoman's job working with
Joe Manchin came together, got a compromise bill, Toomey Manchin.
And really, the American people are for background checks. They are.
Like 90%.
Yes,
And EJ, this is a former Texas Republican. This is no New Jersey Republican talking there.
Not that well known that in 2004 and 2000, George W. Bush ran on an assault weapons ban, on triggers on guns, on background checks. That's not that well known. Obviously, he didn't publicize it that much during the campaigns, but those were his positions during the general election. And I think it's remarkable, as EJ said, how far we've moved. I mean, you said 10, 15 years ago you could imagine moderate Republicans coming to background checks. 10, 15 years ago, the NRA was for background checks. Right. So yes, the conversation has moved dramatically, and the only explanation is really what Pat Toomey offered, which is that because the president supported it, therefore Republicans had to oppose it.
Sam, that thing you said about George W. Bush is so not well known.
Yes.
That this side of the table did not know that.
You know everything.
I didn't know that. Now I know everything.
I'll get you the clips.